This is TalkLoudRadio.com.
A deep one for the end zone. Phelan is down there. Oh, he got it! He got it! He got it! Touchdown! Jordan. Oh! A spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Yes!
Gerson, you're live.
Welcome to week 14 of DFS Fantasy Armchair podcast. I am Gerson, your host today. As you heard the voice before us, it was he's in the hospital. He's sick, so he had to get a frozen fix. Oh, no, there he is. He's live right now, too. Jeff Lambert is not feeling very well. He's under the weather. I have Tim with me today. How you doing, Tim?
I'm hoping we keep going this time, Garrison, man. We had a great show planned, and fifth time's the charm, as Jeff said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I've struck it out many times with a lot of girls, so, you know. I mean, I always say, never give up. Just keep going. I mean, you know, just keep going. But how was your week last week, man? I haven't had a lot of time to play DFS. I was sick the last 2 weeks, in case people don't know. I got a sinus infection, and then I had a flu mixed up with that, so it was pretty bad. I was in Moab, and basically I gave up, and I had to check into a hospital, and they got me a lot better. But other than that, I didn't play too much. I played a little bit, but I didn't do very well. I didn't have enough Todd Gurley. I had a lot of Aaron Jones, which he let me down. But how was your week?
Yeah, I did pretty well. I had Aaron Jones in one of my three lineups, but I had one lineup that was Gurley, McCaffrey, and Ware, and then another one that was Gurley, McCaffrey, and Lindsey. So I did pretty well on those. Those were the ones that had the most of my money. And that combo, the three of those running backs did pretty well. That lineup did real well. So it was an overall win week for me. I'm happy. I had been kind of losing a little bit over the last month. I told you that Thanksgiving slate killed me. So happy to be back on the winning side of things.
That's good to hear. Well, let's not waste any time because basically we are on short luck right now. So let's go ahead and just jump right in at quarterback. Who are your top tier expensive quarterbacks that you're looking at this week, if you are looking at any?
I've said it pretty much every week on this show. I think there was a stat that came out earlier in PPR scoring. There's no bigger difference between the number one and number two position this year than at quarterback, Pat Mahomes, and to the next nearest guy. So once again, I'm going to go back to Pat Mahomes. Yes, they're playing Baltimore. Yes, they're a good team, but they're still projected for, I think, 28 points. He's still Pat Mahomes. So I still think he's definitely in play. Probably not in your cash games, but I definitely want him in tournaments. And then a couple other guys I think have great tournament upside, but I probably wouldn't want in cash either, are Ben Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers. Both are in similar situations with their main running backs being out this week. And I think both teams are probably going to lean more on the pass, but neither one of these teams really have to blow out their opponent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that there are more GPP plays than in cash, but that's definitely who I like on the high end.
I definitely agree with you there. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he's on another level. I think the stat that you're referring to is that he's scoring a sizable difference of 5 points away from the second best scoring quarterback. So basically that's telling you his ceiling's up to, I mean, I believe his ceiling this year is like 40 points, right?
Yeah.
So we see that ceiling and then we see the floor. I would say his floor is about 23 points, 25. I mean, I don't know his lowest scoring, but I think he had one bad week this year where I was just disgusted by it. But other than that, I've been playing Patrick Mahomes in GPPs. I don't see him much of a cash game play like you said, but I mean, contrarian against Baltimore for sure. The other quarterback I was looking at, basically on FanDuel, I don't know his price on DraftKings, is Big Ben, Ben Roethlisberger versus my pitiful Raiders.
Yep.
they're just horrible. Basically, they are like dead last in DVOA, basically in every category they should be. But, let's see. I think they got an implied total of what, like 31 points. So you give me Big Ben with no James Conner and Jalen Samuel, not really known to be like a workhorse running back. They did mention that they were going to have Stephen Ridley in there. Yeah. So it kind of gives me an idea that this is going to be an all-out passing game, and they're just going to shred the Raiders. But I definitely like Big Ben for cash game. I expect him to be one of the highest owned quarterbacks, and he's my top tier, like, heavily priced quarterback. I see other people on FanDuel going for Aaron Rodgers. I'm not following the narrative no more, man. I played Aaron Rodgers enough this year where he let me down too many times, but I could be eating dirt here, man, because they just fired Mike McCarthy. So how do you feel about that,
man? You transitioned really well for me, Garrison, because at the top of my value quarterbacks on DraftKings is Mr. Aaron Rodgers. As you mentioned, we finally got rid of that Mark McCarthy, who was holding this offense down. I definitely think Rodgers comes out and just slings the ball. They're playing against Atlanta, which I think is 31st DVOA against the pass. And, you know, he always plays much better at home. So I think this could be a Rodgers game. And it's not like he's priced up with the other guys. He's only at $6K. He's $200 cheaper than Jameis Winston, who's going to be another popular quarterback on DraftKings. So I agree, relative pricing. I think that Rodgers is actually a good play on DraftKings specifically. And then on the other side of the ball, I also really like Matt Ryan. He's another 400 less, 5,600. There's plenty of value on DraftKings this week, as we're going to get to. But you're always looking to, you know, kind of look in that middle range of quarterback. And so I also want Matt Ryan on the other side of that game in tournaments.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so if he's that price on DraftKings, I would play him. You know, it's just FanDuel different. You guys, my only advice to people is always, when we speak players, there's different prices on different sites, but definitely play on DraftKings for sure. But for FanDuel, I think we got Roger at 8,100. So, it's tough for me, but he's viable, I guess. If you have, let's see. If you have to pick another mid-tier quarterback, basically in that mid-range, what mid-range quarterbacks are you looking at today?
Well, other than Rodgers, the only other guy that I like in there is going to be Deshaun Watson. He's somebody that I've played multiple times throughout the year. He's at home and he's against Indianapolis. I know they didn't put up any points against the Jaguars, and the Jaguars got embarrassed last night. But I think Indy comes out and tries to play with Houston this week. They're both, Indy's trying to get into the playoffs. They need to show up well on the road here, and I think they do it with Andrew Luck. So I think that Houston's going to have to throw and keep up. We're going to get to it later, but I think this is going to be a big Hopkins game. So if I'm going to be big on Hopkins, I'm going to be big on Watson.
I definitely like that call. I've been a big Deshaun Watson guy all year, so you're not going to, scare me away from that. I mean, I love Watson. His rushing upside is pretty damn good. I mean, he has rushing. This guy does not slide. He doesn't know how to slide. He freaking takes hits like no other. I'm like, yeah, that's why you tore your ACL the first year. But definitely on with that call. I guess the mid-range for me is going to be Jameis Winston at 7,700 against New Orleans. He's basically my second best value quarterback. So for that 7,700 price against New Orleans, you don't beat New Orleans through the run. We already learned that all year. You just beat them through the pass. Marshawn Lattimore is a pretty good cornerback, but they have other weapons there like Godwin, Brait, the white tight wide receiver. What's his name?
Adam Humphries?
Humphrey, yeah, with the Humphrey. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely like Jameis Winston this week. And you can stack him with all those three guys. Actually, you can stack him with four guys. But overall, I don't know if I really want to put Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans. I don't know his history, but Mike Evans has disappointed me more than made me happy.
Well, those two have some history for sure, man. They've gotten into it in the past. Yeah, I like those calls, man. I think Winston's going to be real popular on DraftKings, too.
Yeah, we expect Jeff to jump on any minute to defend Mike Evans, so just stay tuned. No, I think Jameis Winston's my mid-tier quarterback. Another quarterback I do want to look at, Phillip Rivers for Cincinnati. Cincinnati has just been getting torched by basically every quarterback they played. I mean, Phillip Rivers 8,300, so he is a little bit higher price, but overall, I mean, that matchup is great. And with no Melvin Gordon, they kind of aired it out last week, and we saw it against the Pittsburgh Steelers where Keenan Allen had a humongous game. I hate you, Keenan Allen. You ruined my fantasy season. I had a bye week till he went out and got 33 points, and then I lost my bye week. Punk. But anyways, Phillip Rivers, I mean, the matchup is great, but other than that, there's no one else in the mid-tier that I'm looking at. I think my next quarterback that I'm going to mention is probably going to make you throw up, but I'll let you.
No, go for it, man. Tell me.
So, let's see.
See, the thing on DraftKings, man, is that the pricing is just so tight for quarterbacks that all of the guys are really within $1,000, right? So if we're gonna talk about it later. There's so much value this week that if you say I want to pay up a quarterback, that's what I'm doing. I'm playing Ben, I'm playing Breeze, I'm playing Rivers, whatever. Then great. Then build your lineup that way. I think that you can also pay down into the mid tier. Like I said, you can play Rodgers, you can play Watson, you can play Winston. I think those are all great plays, but for me personally, I don't really see paying past Matt Ryan this week. Like 5,600, I think is the least I want to go. Maybe you could talk me into Lamar Jackson at 5,700, but lower than that, man, I just don't see the value.
Yeah, I understand that Matt Ryan.
At least not on DraftKings, yeah.
Like on FanDuel, Matt Ryan's 8,200.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's pretty expensive, you know. But I guess we might as well jump into the value quarterback. I'm going to name my value quarterback. You are probably going to puke a little bit. And I've never even talked about this quarterback all season. You know me. Everybody knows me. But Eli Manning, he is 6,500 on FanDuel. 6,500. That is incredibly underpriced. Well, not really underpriced, I don't want to say, but, you know, pretty low. He is facing Washington. He had a game earlier in the season where he got 316 yards and a touchdown versus them. And I think Washington's only gotten worse this year as the season gone on. They've dealt with a lot of injuries on the offense. So I can see Eli Manning getting a couple of good, good field positions and getting some points. Odell Beckham owns them. So you can stack him with Odell Beckham and make a pretty damn solid roster. It's just more of a contrarian GPP play. I don't expect his ownership to be too high, but he's going to be in my GPP pool for sure. Do you have any low value quarterbacks you're looking at, Tim?
Not me personally, but I got to give a shout out to John in the chat. He's suggesting that we play Josh Allen. I don't know about that, John. I think that sounds a little crazy. He does show more rushing upside than I think anybody could have imagined he would, but that just doesn't look like a spot. In fact, again, shadowing later, I really like the Jets defense as a value this week, so I'm not going anywhere near Josh Allen.
Yeah, I understand that call from where John's coming from. His rushing upside is up there, but if you want to pay him for 7,300 on FanDuel, you might as well pay up for Lamar Jackson at 7,500. I don't mind Lamar Jackson this week, but he's going to be in my GPP play. And I'm telling you guys right now, this is at Kansas City. This is not an easy matchup for a rookie quarterback that likes to run the ball. He fumbled 3 times last week. He's turnover prone, so he can legit get you only like 6 or 8 points, you know, but it's straight GPP, but, it's going to be a no for me on Allen. Let's go ahead and, go to defense because we like to touch the money positions last, right?
Yep.
Okay. Defense for me, I feel like it's pretty straightforward for defense for us, right? So, who's your most expensive defense that you think you're going to pay up for this week?
I want the Chargers. I'm not going to be paying up for them a lot, but I do want some exposure. And then I also want some exposure to the Bills. I think they're both in situations where they have good touchdown upside and they're reasonably priced. I think Chargers are 3,500 and then the Bills are 3,200. So, I'm probably going to have not much exposure there, but those are the guys I like up top.
Okay. I like those calls. On FanDuel, the prices for the top guys are the Jet at 4,500. For me, the most expensive defense is I believe the Broncos. I'm not, with them losing Chris Harris, it really takes me back on the Broncos defense. I didn't mind them, but I think I'm actually going to play those defense that you said, the Chargers and the Bills at the top. I think the Chargers are going to be the highest owned defense, as they should, in the matchup against Driscoll.
Driscoll, right.
Yeah, so for sure there. If you had to pick a value defense that you like, who's going to be your choice of option?
Well, I do want to mention one team in the mid-range, and they do kind of make me want to vomit because, I hate recommending this team. It hurts my very soul. But it's the Dallas Cowboys. They're playing at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 2,600, and I think that they actually work out pretty good in this spot. Carson Wentz hasn't looked as good lately. I think that this is a spot where he's on the road. We saw kind of what they did last week. Got a lot of pressure on Drew Brees. They weren't able to really move the ball, and I could see a similar game plan here against Philly. Yeah. So in the mid-range, I like the Cowboys. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm probably going to, as usual, pay down at defense in a lot of my lineups this week. One team I'm going to have a lot of exposure to is the Jets. As we mentioned, I think that this is a spot where they could do really well for 2,400 on DraftKings. I also like the Chiefs. As you mentioned, Lamar Jackson going on the road into Arrowhead. That's a tough environment, and they're only 2,300. Last week I said play the Chiefs defense. They worked out pretty well. This week I'm going to recommend the Chiefs defense again. I still think it'll work out pretty well.
I'm letting you guys know Tim's kind of on a hot streak with defense, because I remember he recommended Cowboys defense, then he recommended the New Orleans Saints defense, and then I don't know who you said the Kansas City Chiefs defense last week.
Yep.
So yeah. And by the way, Tim, you're such a liar, dude. You recommend the Cowboys defense more than anybody I know, man.
No, I said I hate it. No, I've done it a couple times this season, but I didn't like doing it either time. And I do want to give a shout out to the chat, Todd. He mentioned the Jets defense, but he also mentioned the Giants. As you mentioned, they're going at Washington, but they're playing against Mr. Mark Sanchez. And whenever you're playing against Mark Sanchez, there's always a shot of a butt fumble and return for a touchdown. It's always there. So, especially since they're only 2,500 on DraftKings, I definitely think they're in play.
Yeah, that was my value defense, the Giants defense. So, stole my thunder there.
Oh.
But, no, it's cool because you mentioned the Chiefs defense, Giants defense, Jets, Bills. A lot of people are on the Steelers defense. I'm not on the Steelers defense, to be honest, because I think the Raiders can actually score, and Raiders have scored points. And while they might get a few picks, few turnovers, I don't know if I really want to play the Steelers, especially, I think they're on the road, right? It's at Oakland?
Yeah, it's at Oakland, yeah.
Yeah, it's at Oakland. Oakland tends to do better at home. I
think that they're priced, especially on DraftKings, too close to those upper guys that I'm either going to pay up or pay down personally.
Yeah, there's 4,700 on FanDuel, so that's the second highest priced defense. I'd rather just pay down for the Giants defense, the Chiefs defense, they're 3,700. Just rather pay down. But there's Jets and Bills, there's just, yeah, but, let's go ahead and go to tight end. I think we covered enough on defense. Do you have any other defense?
No, I think that's it. The only other one I had on the list was the Cardinals. It hurt me to watch, but they obviously shut down my Packers last week in Lambeau. This week, I believe they're back home, and they get Stafford and the Lions. And we saw last week, if they're able to shut down Kenny Golladay, that offense really struggles. Obviously, they have Patrick Peterson. We expect him to be on Kenny Golladay a lot. And so if they can, stifle that offense, get a little bit of pressure, I could also see them paying off at 2,300. So, like I said, I always like to mix up those lower-end defenses to afford players at other positions. And if one of them goes off, man, the value is just incredible.
Yeah. I think we haven't talked about roster construction so far, but when we get to other positions, there's a lot of value that's going to open up. I think this week for defense, if you don't pay down, it's not the worst thing because you can get value elsewhere. So if you pay up for the Chargers defense or who were the other defense that were up there? 'Cause we have price differential here. The Jets defense. But yeah, so, those are the defense I would pay up for. Jets and, But you're going to get value at running back and wide receiver. But let's go ahead and jump to tight end. The position that we think is the most garbage position in the whole league, unless your name is Travis Kelce or Zach Ertz, you are not garbage. Maybe sometimes George Kittle, but we had some value open up this week, Tim. Jack Doyle is out for the rest of the season. How do you feel about Eric Ebron?
Go ahead. Talk to me. I'm losing my voice.
Okay. So this week we had Jack Doyle announce that he's going to be out for the rest of the season. Eric Ebron is a gigantic target hog. He's going to be a good value. I don't care if his price is $6,400 on FanDuel and on DraftKings. I believe he's priced up there too, but he gets the target. We're talking about a tight end that got 16 targets last week, and this is the first time he's gotten 15 or more targets. He's done it twice this season already, and the other game was when Jack Doyle was also out. So I expect a big game from Eric Ebron. I think it's pretty safe to say that he's going to be one of the highest owned tight ends. I probably think he's the highest owned tight end on FanDuel. I believe on DraftKings also. But we're looking at Eric Ebron probably in the 20 to 30% ownership for myself on FanDuel. I don't know his price on DraftKings. Tim, do you know the price on DraftKings?
For Ebron?
Yeah, good to have you back.
Yeah, man. He's 5,700.
So yeah, 5,700 is actually not that bad for a tight end that's going to get wide receiver usage. So, I mean, Eric Ebron is probably going to be my top tight end play if his name is not Travis Kelce. But other than that, I don't know if I really want to play Zach Ertz versus Dallas. I mean, he is 7,400, which is 600 less than Travis Kelce. And it looks like since they got in Golden Tate, he hasn't really exactly had the biggest game. I mean, he had one good game against the Giants, but as we know, the Dallas Cowboys defense has improved, and they are getting Sean Lee back, and they have said that they're going to play all three linebackers, Sean Lee, Jalen Smith, and loser Van Rose, or whatever his name is. What's his name again?
Leighton Vander Esch.
Oh, so it's not loser Van Rose. Damn it. But yeah, they're going to play all those three linebackers. If you have any of those linebackers, they can all cover Zach Ertz, in my opinion. But if you had to pick a top tight end to pay up for, is it going to be Kelce?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to Ebron. He's probably even going to be in my cash games. But I am going to have plenty of exposure to Kelce. Obviously, Ertz had a big game against Dallas earlier in the season. But as you mentioned, I think that they've gotten better. The linebackers have gotten better. And obviously this game is at home this time for Dallas. So I think that they play Ertz a little bit better. And as I already mentioned them, I like them on defense. So most of my tight end exposure at the top is going to be Kelce and Ebron. And who do you like in the mid-range or value? You paying down at all? I know you like to pay down at tight end.
Yeah, I definitely like to pay down. Everybody knows me. I say the guy that I'm paying down for this week is I'm going to go. And this is dependent on news, because if Evan Ingram plays, I think he becomes a pretty good play, because you can put him with Eli Manning and then pay up elsewhere if you're not looking for the value at running back. Yeah. But that's more of a contrarian GPP play. But I think the play that I really want to pay down for is, other than him, just Austin Hooper. It's kind of ugly. Not sexy, but I'm going to take it. He's 5,700 on FanDuel. It looks like he either gets a lot of target or he just gets reception and yards and a touchdown. I mean, it's either you pay, it's tricky with Austin Hooper. He's boom and bust. But this is the tight end landscape we live in today,
That is exactly right. The very next guy I was going to mention is also very boom or bust, and that's David Njoku. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, he sets up in a spot against Cleveland. I'm going to say against Carolina. They're one of the worst teams in the league against tight ends, and he's also at home. In good spots, they've shown that they'll throw it to him, but you never know, right? He got 6 targets last week, but had 3.8 fantasy points. Week before that, he had 5 targets and DK 17.3. So it's like you never know what you're going to get with him. but I also like him for GPPs. But another guy that was mentioned in the chat, Hector, and he was definitely on my list. He's probably my favorite value tight end this week, Vance McDonald.
Oh,
as we mentioned.
I thought you said,
what?
Okay. I thought you said Hector. That was your tight end. I'm like, I don't know a tight end named Hector.
No, Hector in the chat.
Okay.
No, I definitely like Vance McDonald a lot this week. I think Ben's going to be throwing the ball a lot. We know Oakland Raiders are terrible against pretty much any pass catcher, but particularly the tight end. So I think that works out to be a great play. I think he's 3,800 on DraftKings. I'll have a lot of exposure there.
Yeah, I love Vance McDonald, man. He's 5,500 on FanDuel. I'm definitely going to have a lot of exposure to him. David Njoku, I'm kind of scared to play him. He is 5,300 though, so he is viable against the 31st overall DVOA defense. One guy that I'm looking at that, I mean, if you want to go like dirt sheet bargain, like not pay up at all, Dan Arnold. Dan Arnold of the New Orleans Saints facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know he's been pretty trash unless he gets those usage, but I mean, I'm telling you guys, this is not like go put him in all your rosters or put him in your cash game. This is like a dart throw. But other than that, I mean, like we said, tight end's been a pretty sketchy boom or bust landscape this year. But I do have one question. It's the question that everybody wants to know, Tim.
Yep.
Are you going to play Rob Gronkowski?
Yep, and I was waiting for somebody to say that. He's 4,800 on DraftKings. I think you have to have some exposure to him, man. I don't see him being in my cash games because we just haven't been able to see him being Gronk this year. But I think to completely fade him would be stupid.
I agree. I definitely agree. On DraftKings, he's definitely in play for me.
4,800, man. That's crazy. A couple years ago, if you saw a Gronk like that, you'd think it was a misprice. You'd think, DraftKings fucked up. He's going to be 100% owned.
Well, I'm looking at his log. He hasn't even been priced under 5,000 since, well, as far as I can go, is 2014. So he's never been priced under 5,000 since 2014. That is crazy. But the thing, that's FanDuel, my bad. I don't know what he is on DraftKings, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't been priced that low since his rookie season, I'm sure. But overall, Rob Gronkowski is a good GPP play. Xavier Howard is out, so I can see them moving the ball a lot more efficient. And they are trying to get Rob in. Like, they're trying to work him in, but he's playing left tackle more than tight end, so. I mean,
right.
How do you feel about Jimmy Graham against Atlanta?
I think he's an okay play. I mean, like I said, I like Rodgers this week. I like all of his pass catchers, but he's not a guy that I'm going to have a lot of exposure to.
Okay, so I think it's pretty safe to say that the plays that me and Tim are both on mostly highest ownership, probably going to be Ebron, Kelsey, and Njoku.
Yeah, Vance. And hey, I want to give a shout out real quick to Matt Dahl in the chat. Matt, you must have huge balls, man, because if you play Lacoste after dropping a donut last week, the goose egg, I don't know, I might recommend something else, man. Because we talk about boom or bust, but for him to go 0 and you're like, man, I'm going to go back to him, that takes balls, brother. Good luck.
Yeah. One tight end I do want to mention, I don't love it, not excited. Ian Thomas. A lot of people have been talking about Ian Thomas. He's not Greg Olsen, but he is going to get peppered with target. And we have the news that Cam Newton's shoulder is hurting. It is questionable right now. So I think he'll play, but it kind of shows you that Cam Newton can't throw the ball very far. So I think this will be more of like a, dink and dump or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Passes to Ian Thomas. But this is more for a GPP play on DraftKings, not FanDuel. But I think those are all tight ends. So we're basically done for the tight end. We're going to take a quick commercial break. This is the part where Jeff puts it in, but yeah. We're going to go straight to running back here. So at the running back position, I think this is probably where we're going to spend most of our time at, because this week running back situation is like
crazy.
It's like, the Wheel of Fortune when it spins, and you're like, all right, what are they going to land on? That's what it is, dude. Because I usually start doing my research on Wednesday, right? And I'm like, okay, Connor is out. Jalen Samuel. Huh. He's out. Boom. And I'm like, wait a minute, who are the top? Oh my gosh, top guys. All of them have great matchups. But let's go ahead and start with I think we should start with the top guys because basically I think the breaking news what we got in for value is what's going to make the slate. And
Yep.
I believe so, in my opinion. What you do with your running back position, it's going to define your whole roster construction. Am I correct, Tim?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, we've said this multiple times on the show. We wish that you could play 5 running backs. This is another week I wish you could play 5 running backs. I mean, it's just there's so many guys in good spots already, and then all the value that opened up. Like, it's going to, like you said, how you decide to play the running back position and then what you do with the value that you got there is going to define the whole week.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with our stud running back. I'll let you take one and I'll take one because pretty much stud running back to stud running back on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and just say my guy. I love him. The last 4 weeks he's been tearing it up, and it's going to be Ezekiel Elliott. I love Zeke. He already proved it at Philadelphia that he can run all over them. The Philadelphia Eagles have been one of the worst run defense over the season now. I think they're ranked what? Let me see, where I got them at. 20th overall.
20th. Yep.
20th overall in DVOA run defense. And Zeke has actually been catching the ball pretty well too. I mean, he has 6 receptions, 5 receptions, 7 receptions, 6 receptions. I mean, the last 4 weeks. So it shows you that they know with Amari Cooper there, it opens up things for Zeke, in my opinion. And as dumb as well, it doesn't sound dumb because the Raiders are so bad that I'd rather watch the Cowboys play right now. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and I miss you, Cooper. Miss you, buddy. Missed you. But Zeke is going to run all over Philadelphia. He already did it once for 151 yards on 7.9 yards per carry for 1 touchdown, and then he had 6 receptions. Give me that upside with Zeke. And the best part about Zeke, I think his price is not out of like range. It's not like 9,400, 9,500. It's actually 8,800 on FanDuel. I don't know his price on DraftKings, but I think my highest owned running back will be Zeke this week.
Yep, I love that call. I think all 4 guys at the top on DraftKings, McCaffrey, Barkley, Elliott, and Kamara, are all great plays. I think that my highest ownership is definitely going to be Zeke as well. I think McCaffrey will probably be 2, Kamara will be 3, and Barkley will be 4. I mean, Barkley will probably be 3, to be honest. I mean, he's just, like you said, in that spot against Washington, I think that they're going to get up and just run him like crazy. So they're just all great plays. Like you said, which one of those guys you roll with is going to define your whole week. So, but I think that I'm leaning Ezekiel Elliott as well. He's at home. He's getting as much usage as anybody. He's 700 less than McCaffrey, 300 less than Barkley. So that's probably where I'm going to go at the high end.
Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned, McCaffrey, I mean, he's only one of the, he's the only one player in history of the NFL that has had 5 consecutive games of 50 rushing yards and 50 receiving yards. So that shows you his, basically his floor, you know. And I mean, this year on DraftKings, he is probably the best running back on DraftKings, I believe, if I'm correct. I mean, he had 26, 41, 34, 30 points, and he had a very bad week against Detroit. Throw that out the window. Every running back has one bad week at least, you know. But, I mean, overall, McCaffrey's a great play. You can't go wrong with Saquon Barkley. I mean, last week was probably he had bad weeks, but Chicago, we knew it was a hard matchup. Chicago is a great run defense, but he still got 125 yards on them with 5.2 yards per carry. So they mostly shut him down in the receiving end. So,
I said last week on the show that it was going to be a real test for Saquon to go against that Bears defense. And for him to get, 5.2 yards a carry, 125 yards on the ground. He only had 21 yards through the air, but he still managed 20 points. I think that showed a lot. So in a much, much better spot against Washington, obviously he priced up another 1,000 on DraftKings, but this looks like such a smash spot for him. I definitely, it's going to be really tough not to play Saquon.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm having a dilemma myself here because if anybody knows anything about me, I love Alvin Kamara all season. I've been playing this guy in and out. But the last couple of weeks, have kind of taken a step back because of the Ingram role. If you guys do remember, his best game of the season was like basically week 1, I believe, or week 2, when he faced the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he got 38 points. Yep, 38 points. He got basically 9 receptions, 112 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns on the run. But Ingram coming back kind of makes me a little bit, how do you say that word? Worry? A little bit, you get a little worried about it, you know? But yeah. I still think Kamara is a great play on FanDuel. He is 8,300, so it's kind of cheaper. But Alvin Kamara is the only other guy that I think on that list of 4 running backs that we haven't mentioned. But I think Kamara is in a good spot. And if you're going to play, you're going to get ahead of Tampa Bay, obviously. But the thing is, it's going to have to be done through either the run game or the pass game, and Kamara's got to get touchy.
Yep. So before we move on, I want to say one thing, and that's that I think that the roster construction you're going to see a lot this week is either 2 of the top guys and 1 of the value guys, or 2 of the value guys and 1 of the top guys. So I think that the mid-range is going to be mostly skipped. I think in GPPs you're going to be able to get some of these guys at really low ownership. And as I mentioned, last week I played Phillip Lindsay. This week I'm going to go right back to Phillip Lindsay. Obviously the news, Emmanuel Sanders out, torn Achilles. It's possible that we may see Lindsay getting some of the target share that he was getting earlier in the season, games where he was getting 3, 4, 5 targets. So if you're telling me I can get Phillip Lindsay, he's 6,200, I believe, and he's going to be really low owned, man, I'm going to go right back to him again this week in tournaments.
Yeah, I like that call. Phillip Lindsay's a beast, man. He's averaging like 6.2 yards per carry. I think he has the 3rd best all-time yard per carry for one season. And I think, what's his name? Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders hold the other 2. I don't know if it, I don't know. I can't confirm on Emmitt Smith, but I know Barry Sanders is the all-time yard per carry leader in one season. So to put your name up there on that chart, pretty impressive. Against the San Francisco 49ers, kind of a tough matchup, right? But I think he can get the workload and he can get the touches. I mean, he's already proven it. I mean, week in and week out, a lot of people doubt him, and he goes out and gets points. So he is 7,900 on FanDuel. It's a little bit more expensive than I wanted. There's only one guy in the mid. There's 2 guys in the mid tier that I want to target on FanDuel. Aaron Jones against the Atlanta Falcons. And I hope, this is what I'm hoping, that Joe Philbin, he used to be the coach for the Miami Dolphins, right?
Right.
So when they played the Miami Dolphins, if I remember correctly, they had a pretty heavy run game. So I'm hoping Aaron Jones, and they were smart enough to realize that Aaron Jones is just a better running back all around. And Mike McCarthy finally being out of there helped them a lot. And Atlanta Falcons are ranked almost 30, they're ranked 29th overall in DVOA versus the run, and 28th overall versus the running back pass. So hoping that Aaron Jones has a pretty big game here at 7,500 if I'm getting in the mid-tier. The only other guy in the mid-tier for FanDuel, I know on DraftKings it's differently. You might throw up a little bit, but David Johnson, I know he had a pretty bad game last week, but take away those 2 touchdowns from Edmund and give him to David Johnson when he should have been in there. He would have had a pretty big game, and you can expect if everybody saw 7,000 on David Johnson this week, they'd be all over that, especially against the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions don't have a pretty good run defense. They have the 23rd overall run defense. They did trade for Snack Harrison, but overall, still not falling for the Detroit Lions defense. I mean, it's not that great. But those are my 2 mid-tier running backs. Do you have any mid-tier running backs that you want to mention?
Yeah, the only other guy I really like on DraftKings anyway, because of the way it sets up with the scoring, is James White. He's 6,600 and he's going to Miami. I think that he works out really well in that offense. I think that this is a spot where he could have, really good, really high end, for that price. He's, noticeable discount over the higher end guys, was 1,500 less than Kamara. And I'm not saying that he has their floor, but he definitely has, close to 30-point upside. So I think for me in the mid tier on DraftKings, it's going to be Lindsay and White. Yeah,
I agree with you there. I like the White call. Why do I not? Let me see. Okay, if you name, I have to mention Tony Michelle in this game because if they get blown up, if they blow out the Miami Dolphins, Tony Michelle could have one of those games. But here's what worries me right now about the whole New England Patriots, just the whole dynamic of the offense, to be honest. We got Rex Burkhead back. We got Tony Michelle. We got James White. We got Edelman. We got Hogan. We got Gronk. And even Patrick, that was his name. Patterson. What's his first name? Not Patrick. Cordell Patterson. They have so many options there that it just pissed me off. And they even got a fucking fullback. What's his name? Devlin?
Oh, Devlin, yeah.
Oh, when that fucking.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
God,
they spread the ball so much around up there. And, big news actually on that is that we're going to get to it later with the wide receivers, but Xavier Howard is out for Miami, and that obviously upgrades Josh Gordon, which I think does downgrade a little bit from James White. I didn't really adjust that too much, but I'm still going to have some exposure there. But it's time. It's what everybody's been waiting for, Garrison. It's time for the value running back. So I'm going to let you take it from here.
All right, man. I don't know how to tell you guys, but value running back is the shit this week. I mean, we have freaking Jalen Samuel, a running back versus the Oakland Raiders. He is 4,600 on FanDuel. 4,600. That's minimum price for a running back, basically. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to Jalen Samuel. And the best thing about Jalen Samuel, this guy is not just a running back. He is basically a hybrid running back because he can catch the ball. When he came to the draft, he was a tight end. So he came to the draft as a tight end. The Pittsburgh Steelers knew that he could run the ball too. I believe he comes from what? North Carolina State? Is that correct? Or North Carolina something? But anyways, Jalen Samuel against the Oakland Raiders. I mean, last week when Connor went out, he had a touchdown, 3 receptions, 20 yards. Even against Carolina when they had a garbage time. I mean, they went up by 52 points. He had 5 rushes. He still got receptions. He got 3 receptions and a touchdown. So basically this guy for 4,500, he's going to be a great value. In case you don't know who Jalen Samuel is, he plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and James Conner is out against the Oakland Raiders, who rank pretty much, 31st against the run, 19th against the running back pass, but overall their DVOA defense is 31st. So you give me Jalen Samuel, you do have to be aware that Stephen Ridley is going to play. So I'm seeing more of a time split of a 60-40. I think Stephen Ridley will get the kind of like the LeGarrette Blount role. And then Jalen Samuel will get more of a combination of the Kerryon Johnson role. But that's just a comparison. I like Jalen Samuel a lot this week. I'm going to have him a lot on both sites. I think I'm going to have him more on FanDuel. I think the other value running back that you're going to mention is probably a better play on DraftKings than on FanDuel. But I love Jalen Samuel. That's my value running back for the week on FanDuel.
Yep. I definitely like Jalen Samuels. I think he's going to be really popular as well on DraftKings. And then, of course, we can't talk about him and not talk about Justin Jackson and Jeff Wilson. Yeah. If you were watching the Chargers game last week, they were giving Eckler the ball. He just did not look good. And then every time they gave it to Justin Jackson, man, he made something special happen. So they said that Eckler is going to be the main guy this week. But I think, as you mentioned earlier, if they get into that game and, the Chargers get up, I mean, we don't expect much of a fight from Jeff Driscoll. I think that they go and lean on Justin Jackson in this game. And so for what is he, 3,700, I think 3,800 on DraftKings. I mean, I definitely want all of him in tournaments. Yeah. Matt mentioned in the chat about Ridley being a worry for Samuel's playing time. And honestly, I think you could say that about all 3 of these value running backs this week. I think the one that has the clearest path to touches for me is Jeff Wilson of the 49ers. But personally, I don't think that he has the PPR upside that Jalen Samuels does, which I want on DraftKings. So if I had to rank them, it would probably be Samuels, Wilson, Jackson for me. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if they leaned on Justin Jackson in this game.
I'm sorry to say this, but I disagree with you on Jeff Wilson for the receiving upside. He has receiving upside. He's a really good receiving running back. Last week he got targeted 9 times. He got 8 receptions and 73 yards. So I do think he has that upside. In a game versus Denver, which they're known for their pass rush, the thing that worries me is that they're going to have him block a lot more. And if Denver goes ahead, Jeff Wilson could get out of game script, but I just don't see that because I have Jeff Wilson on DraftKings. He's my number one value running back. I do like Justin Jackson because he is 4,500 on FanDuel. So I don't mind him, but I think if I had to rank my running back, so let's go ahead and rank these value running backs, right? Because everybody's going to want to know.
Right.
Number one.
I just did.
Okay, you did. Number one on FanDuel is Jeff Wilson. Number one, Jalen Samuel. Number two, Justin Jackson. Number three is Jeff Wilson for me. But take all these value running backs we told you guys right now, and just remember, you got to mix and match them if you play a lot of GBP because we're not Nostradamus. We can't tell who's going to be the one that's going to be breaking out. But it's just tough. I mean, because we got so many value running backs, we have so many stud running backs. So the strategy for me this week is going to be two stud running backs and one value running back.
Yep, I think so.
If you want to go contrarian, you can go 3 value running backs and then pay up everywhere else. But that's just being contrarian. But I think
I know that Jeff Wilson is a good pass catcher. I just mean I didn't think he has much upside in this spot. But I still ranked him second, so I still like him as a play.
My bad, Tim. My bad.
No, it's all good.
His upside is limited against Denver Broncos, but does the Broncos defense kind of make you like not that scary anymore with Chris Harris being out?
Right, I would agree. I mean, I don't think that they're going to go in there and score 30 points either, though.
No. No. It's funny because I was listening to a podcast and they asked who was the last running back that did bad for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm like, Alfred Morris, I guess. But then I started thinking about it. Wow, there's not a lot of running backs that do bad when they get the opportunity for the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan, is that his name? That guy knows how to work running backs so well. But is there any other running back that we didn't touch on that you think you might play?
Yeah, the only other guy I had on my list was Gus Edwards. They've obviously leaned on him a lot in recent weeks, but I think with all the value that opened up, much like I said last week, I don't expect to have a lot of exposure to him. But it was just one guy I wanted to mention that I had seen some people talking about. But for the most part this week, like I said, I like the couple guys in the middle. I like the 4 guys at the top, and then of course the values.
Okay.
I usually tend to run a pretty tight core. I don't run 150 lineups. I'm usually a 20 max kind of guy, and then I'll run 3 max and obviously all the single entries. So, I'm usually going to have 5 or 6 running backs, 7 or 8 wide receivers, 4 or 5 quarterbacks, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I have like 150 players. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know. And then win that million, G.
I've been trying to all season. Those fuckers don't want to give it to me. No. Basically, it's like what Tim said. You have to have a core construction when you make your roster lineup, your roster construction. So, this week, that's our running back. Joe Mixon popped up on the injury report. He remained limited at practice. If he is out, do you have any interest in Bernard? I'll be honest, I don't have much interest in any of the Bengals players right now.
Yeah. I mean, Gio he's shown up in some spots. He obviously has good, pass catching ability. But in this spot, man, I just, he's 4,000 on DraftKings. We just mentioned 3 guys that I think are better plays. If he's out, I guess I could see it if he's actually ruled out before lock, but I still think I would rank all 3 of those other guys above him based on the matchups.
Okay. One more guy I want to touch the injury because when I woke up today, and yes, I do wake up like at 1:00 in the afternoon, I got an alert that Dukes Johnson's actually not going to be able to play this week. That basically tells me that Nick Chubb probably going to get the heaviest workload of all the running backs for the Cleveland Browns. Which if he gets that heavy workload against the Carolina Panthers, I do have some GPP interest in him. Nick Chubb is a stud. He is a stud. He's just, he had like 3 weeks where, 7,700 on FanDuel. He can be one of those mid-tier running backs, but that's the only other running back I missed on.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to wide receivers. I think wide receiver this week is kind of, for me, it's more of the mid-tier plays, but it just depends on my roster construction. There is a lot of good stud at the top, but it really, really depended on roster construction. How about you go over your top wide receivers, kind of like the stud that you would pay up for if you were paying up?
Yeah, I think probably my favorite guy, I mentioned him earlier in the podcast, is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. He comes in at a little bit of a discount over guys like Tyreek Hill and Antonio Brown, which I think are in good spots. But I really like Hopkins here for 7,800. So he's probably going to be the high-end guy I have the most exposure to this week. And then the other guy is Keenan Allen. As we mentioned, I think that they're going to lean heavily on the passing game here. I am a little bit concerned about the spread and just how much they're going to have to throw the ball with them being favored by 14 points. But he's 7,400. I think that's baked a little bit into his price. He's still going to see 10-plus targets. So those are probably my two favorite guys at the top. And then, of course, you mentioned it earlier, is Odell. Anytime he goes against the Redskins, he seems to have a good game. So I think that those are – what?
He takes it personal. Josh Norman and him have a history. He takes it personal.
He does, yeah. So I think those are probably my three favorite guys at the top. I've heard reports that Julio just isn't 100%. And that I was initially really high on Julio. He's done well against the Packers in the past. But this week with, if you're going to pay up for somebody like that, you can't risk it. So I think that I'll have some Julio, but he won't be a core guy for me.
Yeah. Let's see. I think Hopkins is a great play. I feel like every single time Indianapolis and Houston play, it's either Hopkins going off or T.Y. Hilton going off, or they both go off. But I definitely like that call. Odell Beckham, you already know how I feel about him. Julio Jones, that injury is kind of worrisome a little bit, but I think he'll be okay. He'll be the Julio we likes to be. Devontae Adams. I love Devontae Adams this week. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him. He is priced up at 8,700 though, but I think he can have a really big game in this game. The Atlanta Falcons are ranked 31st overall in DVOA versus the pass. Overall against wide receiver run, they're ranked 28th overall. So overall, it just tells me that he's in a great matchup. And like we said earlier in the season, we think this is the game where Aaron Rodgers might break out. He might get that 4 touchdown, 400 yards, something like that. Not saying he's going to, people, so don't go be like, oh, G told me that he's going to get 400 yards. But if there's any game that we can see a big breakout game from Rodgers, and Devontae Adams definitely going to be involved in it. He's the heaviest, he has the heaviest workload, the heaviest usage and everything, targets and everything in the whole offense. And with Jimmy Graham kind of nursing that hand injury, it kind of shows you that Devontae Adams basically the man there. Marcus Boundless, Scantling, MVS, and Randall Cobb haven't really shown up too much. No. So definitely like Devontae Adams for my top guy. I think we can't go on without mentioning Michael Thomas either. He is priced up at 8,300. I am kind of worried a little bit because they kind of tend to be going to the run game a lot more, in the last couple of weeks. That does worry me a little bit, especially against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are a little bit better against the run than against the pass. Obviously, we know the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ranked among the worst against the pass, but I think if they're going to beat Tampa Bay, they're going to do it through the air. So hopefully we see a big Michael Thomas game. Basically, in week 1, he had a 30-point game. I mean, he had 16 receptions, 180 yards and a touchdown on 17 targets against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if we expect a big game, Michael Thomas is up there. But again, like we said, guys, these are a lot of top tier wide receivers. So good thing we have a lot of value at running back, right, Tim?
Yeah, man, definitely. I like that call a lot. I definitely could see a big game from Michael Thomas. As I mentioned earlier, I do think that they lean a little bit more on the run in this spot. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if he had one of those ceiling games. I don't have him projected as high as some people do, but I still think he's a great play as well.
Yeah, I agree. So a couple guys that I want to point out that I'm kind of like, not going to have a lot of exposure to. And let me know how you feel about these guys. Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Tyler Boyd. Do you want to play any of those guys too much?
No, I mean, we have to mention Jeff, earlier in the chat, he had a stat about Mike Evans, and I think he said he was 7 for 141 in their last matchup. So, I mean, I think he's an interesting play, but we've mentioned before him and, Lattimore, it's just not a good spot for me. I think that we're going to play, a couple of the value guys we're going to talk about later. I'll have much higher exposure there.
Oh, I found another stat on Mike Evans. Jeff has mentioned Mike Evans 1,443 times. He has liked him. He's commented on his Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr, whatever. No, I'm kidding. Mike Evans, yeah, he could have a big game, but his price, $7,700. Rather pay for Keenan Allen at $7,900. I'd rather pay for Odell Beckham at $8,000. So I'm not too interested in him. Let's go ahead and jump into the mid-tier guys. Who are your favorite mid-tier guys for you?
You know what? I was going to toss it back to you. I mentioned earlier I really like Josh Gordon. There's a lot of, mouths to feed in New England, but I think with Xavier Howard being out, he becomes a better play. But I mentioned earlier I hate playing Cowboys. I lost a lot of money because I didn't play him on Thanksgiving. So I want your take on Amari Cooper.
Average Amari? I can't tell you.
You miss him.
Shout out to, what's his name? Peter Jennings, what's his name?
Peter Jennings.
Yeah, Peter Jennings. This guy, CSU Ram, he's lost a lot of money on Amari Cooper, but he's also a great DFS player. And I'll say it straight up, Amari Cooper is in play this week. I think he's in a great spot against the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles defense has been atrocious this year. Cooper have actually gotten it's crazy to think this, right? Cooper have gotten more targeted in the red zone with the Cowboys in all of these games than he has with the Raiders the last 2 years. Cooper has gotten more yards, catches, and touchdowns in these games with the Cowboys than he did in the previous 6 games with the Raiders. So that basically tells me right now that Amari Cooper at $6,900 on FanDuel, which is really mid-tier, low price, I think he's due for a big game. He could have had a big game last week, but they really, really wanted to keep New Orleans off the field. Yeah. That was the goal. That was the plan. I mean, he still got 8 receptions, 8 targets, So 76 yards. So if he would have gotten 1 touchdown, trust me, a lot more people would have been playing him this week against Philadelphia. I mean, it's just, to me, I think Amari Cooper is in play. If this is correct, Amari Cooper played Philadelphia already. He had 10 targets, 6 receptions, and 75 yards. So I like that. I don't know what his price on DraftKings is. I haven't looked at his price, but what's his price over there?
$6,600, I believe.
Oh, yeah, man. Just not bad. How much is Josh Gordon?
$6,000.
Ooh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's tough, man. So, I mean, I like Cooper a lot. Obviously, we mentioned earlier we both really like Zeke this week. Yeah. I expect it to be they're going to lean heavily on the run game. So I do think, you want to attack Philly through the air. I do think that Cooper is going to see, 7, 8, 9 targets. Whether or not he gets into the box is going to be the big deal. But I think he's a good play. I think in that mid range, I like Gordon a little bit better. But I could definitely see the Cooper play. But I think we're both more excited to play some of these cheaper guys.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, it's just, to me, it's like stud or cheaper, right? The mid-tier is kind of like, okay, I'll sprinkle some of those guys, Okay, let me look at something real quick. Yeah, I agree with you there. So yeah, let's, if there's any other mid-tier plays that you want to speak about, there's only one guy I have. Actually, yeah, 2 guys I have. T.Y. Hilton at 7,600. He is, kind of questionable or whatever, somewhat optimistic that he will play, but I think he'll play. If you go back and look at T.Y. Hilton's history against the Houston Texans, he always killed them. Yep. I mean, in week 4, he had 115 yards, 4 reception. If he would have gotten a touchdown, he would have gotten like 20 points. Last year, week 9, he had 5 receptions, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. Let's see, the yeah, I mean, his history against Houston is pretty great. Overall, I love T.Y. Hilton, and they're going to pass the ball. I believe Andrew Luck in that game against Houston last time, he threw the ball 62 times. Complete. I'm hoping, T.Y. Hilton gets 9 of those or 8 of those, 120 yards, maybe a touchdown. I'm all over him. The other guy I want to talk about in the mid-year is Juju Smith-Schuster against the Oakland Raiders. I can't believe we didn't talk about Antonio Brown, but he is a great play, everybody. So, play Antonio Brown. Play Antonio Brown. But Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown are both great plays against the Oakland Raiders. But I think that's all for me in the mid-tier and the high tier.
Yeah, I think it was a great point with Hilton. He does kill the Texans, so I definitely think he's in play in the mid-range. So I like that call a lot.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go to probably the highest ownership where most of the ownership is going to go to, because due to people either paying for, high tier wide receivers and then they want those low tier, value wide receivers and then they want those high tier running back or the one value running back. Cause I think this is my opinion. Roster construction is going to be, if you're lucky, 2, stud running back, 1 value. And then like on wide receiver, it's going to be probably, if you can make them fit, probably like 1 stud, wide receiver and then 2 value wide receivers. And then after that, you kind of mix around. But, I think the best value wide receiver for FanDuel for me is Godwin. Chris Godwin against the New Orleans Saints. I think it's pretty he's just been a monster lately and he's been paying off. I don't know. I just can't play, Humphrey, on FanDuel because he's a wide receiver that doesn't really have like high upside for touchdowns. Doesn't have that body to get me those touchdowns, I don't know how to say it. He's just like more of like a reception guy. But,
yeah.
I just love, Godwin. He's priced down at 5,600. Way, way cheap. That's so cheap on FanDuel. I don't know his price on DraftKings. Let's see. But I think Godwin's my top value, wide receiver this week. If I'm paying down, the matchup is there. Marshawn Lattimore is going to be on Mike Evans. But how do you feel about Godwin?
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think both Godwin and Humphreys are in play on DraftKings. As you mentioned, you want to attack the other 2 guys, not against Marshawn Lattimore, PJ Williams, and Eli Apple. So I like both of those plays. I am going to have more Godwin personally, but I think with the PPR on DraftKings, I want some Humphreys too. And then another guy, what is Cortland Sutton's price on FanDuel?
Oh,
he's 4,500 on DraftKings. And with the Emmanuel Sanders injury, he had a pretty good game last week against the Bengals. Then again, everybody has good weeks against the Bengals. So we do expect him to see a good amount of Richard Sherman. But for 4,500, man, I mean, I think that he could just smash value.
Yeah. His same price as Godwin. That's why I'm having a fucking hard time, man. It's Godwin and Sutton. They're both the same price. So that's the way I'm like right now. It's just, I think I'm going to be split on both of them for my value wide receiver. But yeah, the Emmanuel Sanders injury opens up a lot. 49ers aren't that great against the pass. They're actually better against the run. Overall, Godwin and, what's his name, Sutton's are very tough this week, but I think I'm leaning more toward, Godwin because he has a better quarterback, as ugly as that sounds, but in better opportunity with the matchup, I guess you can say. But is there any other value wide receiver you're looking at?
Yeah, there's one guy I want to mention, and you said it a second ago. With Emmanuel Sanders out, I expect that one guy that's going to see an increase. He's actually seen an increase in snaps ever since Demaryius Thomas left, but even more this week is going to be Deshaun Hamilton. He's 3,000 on DraftKings. He's just a stone punt. As we mentioned, there's a lot of value at running back this week, so I don't think you have to. But for 3K, I think that he's going to see the majority of the snaps on offense, man. So you're telling me some guy's 3K, he's going to see that many snaps, 70, 80% of snaps at wide receiver. I'm definitely interested.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you. If he's 3,000, that's a pretty good price. I mean, Deshaun, is it Deshaun or Deshaun?
I want to say it's Deshaun, but honestly, I don't know.
Deshaun. Okay. Yeah, I don't mind him. I don't know if he's actually even on Deshaun Hamilton. Okay, yeah. He's 4,500 minimum price on FanDuel. But players like that on FanDuel, I don't play them too much because there's no upside compared to like Godwin or Sutton at 5,600. On DraftKings, I can see the play is viable because he's 3K. He's probably going to get target. And from what I'm hearing, that's what what's his name, John Elway said. Players like Deshaun and Cortland Sutton are going to have to step up. So I don't mind that call. There's one guy I want to mention because he's a value on FanDuel, but I don't feel great about it. I haven't felt great about it all year. He's let me down multiple times, and he kind of broke the peekaboo. Here I am, you know. Jarvis Landry, 5,800 on FanDuel. He's really, really cheap. Overall, this matchup Carolina is not a great defense, people. We give them too much credit, in my opinion. It's just I think Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback. A lot of people bashed on him after last week that he threw 2 interceptions or 3 interceptions or something like that, and they kind of got off the horse. But I don't mind Baker this week, and Jarvis Landry, if he can be in my GPP play at 5,800. So out of my 3 wide receivers that I'll have for value are going to be, number 1 is going to be, Godwin, number 2 is Sutton, and then I'll mix in Landry for GPP.
Yeah, I think those are good calls, man. I really like it.
Yeah, man, I think that's about it.
How do you feel about Callaway on the other side of, Landry? Obviously Landry, you know.
I think Callaway's a good GPP play with high upside because Baker, he just can launch the ball. I think Baker last week had 6 15-yard or more yard. What do you call it? 6 completion for 15 yards or more.
Right.
So that kind of tells you they're launching the ball, you know. So
yeah,
I don't
we've
mind
said multiple times that nobody gives up more deep plays and more deep touchdowns than the Carolina Panthers. So if you're not, if you're saying, okay, I expect this to be a Landry game, which it very well could be, I think that's a good call. But if you're saying, okay, well, I want Antonio Callaway for only 3,900 with that GPP upside, if you want to save 1,000, and don't get me wrong, I want guys like Godwin and Humphreys and Sutton much more. But for a GPP play, I think that Callaway is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I like Callaway. I heard mentions about him, but I didn't realize his price on FanDuel is $5,400, $200 cheaper than my other value wide receiver, and almost $400. It is $400 cheaper than Landry. So I don't mind that call. I like it actually. I'm gonna have to get more exposure to that. I think
we can't move on from value wide receiver without mentioning Jeff's boy Traquan Smith. He only got 1 target last week at Dallas, but he's going to be that second wide receiver this week in against Tampa Bay. You want to beat them through the air. He's obviously much cheaper, given his role than Michael Thomas. So, I mean, he's the same price as Cortland Sutton. Obviously, I don't have him projected for as many targets, but he's got a good bit of upside for 4,500, man.
That's against Tampa Bay. They're just awful.
Right.
All right. This is the part where we go to a stack in the box. If you want to run the quarterback naked, we always got to include that. We have to include that. So who's your top stack of the week? I think I already have an idea who it is, and I would definitely agree with you.
Yeah, my favorite stack this week is Watson to DeAndre Hopkins. I saw that coming. Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, man, I played that stack this year. I'm going back to it this week against Indy. And of course, that sets up well. You bring it back with Eric Ebron. So I think that's probably going to be one of the more owned stacks that I have.
I definitely love that call, man. I can't tell you how much I love Hopkins and Watson this week. Yeah, I mean, that's a great call. I think for me this week is going to be Andrew Luck and Eric Ebron. I think if I can get targets out of them, and Andrew Luck is not that expensive, he's more of a GPP play. I know we didn't mention him on the quarterback, but Andrew Luck and Eric Ebron for me are pretty good plays. 7,900, and then he's 50 or 6,400, but on FanDuel. But if I can get those guys connects 3 touchdowns, I wouldn't be shocked, dude, because Ebron is just a touchdown machine. And if they can get in the red zone against Houston, Houston's not very good at covering the tight ends. I believe they're ranked pretty dead last, if I'm correct, right? Or they're up there somewhere. Yeah, they're ranked 28th overall versus the tight end. And Ebron is just, he's a stud. When there's no, what's his name? No Jack Doyle. He's gotten more.
Ali Cox isn't going to play either, so he's going to get all the usage there.
Yeah, I mean, he already had it earlier in the season when they were 34-37. I think we all remember when we were hoping, because Ebron didn't have that much points, and then in the fourth quarter and overtime, he got that garbage touchdown and those receptions. I don't think they're going to make that mistake again. They're actually going to just pepper Ebron with a bunch of targets. So, let's go ahead and do we do any other topic here? I can't.
Yeah, we got to get our sick call of the week, man. And I want to give a shout out to my sick call of the week from last week. It was Derrick Henry. He didn't come through on the slate, so in that sense he failed. But obviously, I'm sure most of us watched the game he had last night. That 99-yard run where he was just bowling over the whole teams. And then obviously on its way to, I think, a 239-yard 4-touchdown night. So, if you played the Thursday to Monday or you played the showdown slate, I sure hope you had Derrick Henry. But this week, my sick call of the week is going to be the Browns D. As I mentioned, It is Cam on the road. I think that this is obviously going to be a situation where they have a ton of upside. But I think if I got the stat correctly, Cleveland is fourth in terms of turnover margin and interceptions in the league. Cam reports that he might have a little bit of a shoulder issue. You said he's going to be doing a lot of dink and dunk, and I agree with you. That's why I like McCaffrey a lot this week. But I could see it going the other way as well. I could have him have one of those 2 interception, 2 fumble type games, and I could see them more than paying off their price at $2,200. So I'm not telling you to play the Browns in cash by any means, but if you're looking for a GPP punt, maybe somebody to pair with Nick Chubb in tournaments, I think the Browns could be a good play.
I don't mind that. It's pretty sick, man. I'm going to go ahead and say Jeff Lambert sick call of the week. It was Reuben Foster to beat up another girl. No, I mean, not Reuben Foster. It was, what was his name? Robert Foster?
Yes.
Robert Foster. When Jeff told me this guy that in chat row, I said, what the fuck is a Robert Foster? And then he told me about him. Oh man, I wish I could get the comment that he said. But he made him sound like a good wide receiver. I believe he plays wide receiver, right, Tim?
Yeah, he's a wide receiver for the Bills. Obviously, the news out of Buffalo is that they dropped both Kelvin Benjamin and Andre Holmes earlier this week. He was already playing a good percentage of snaps. He had gotten 16.5, 17.4 points weeks 10 and 12. So he's already familiar with the offense. He's, mostly caught long bombs, but nevertheless, he's going to be kind of that number 2 receiver behind Zay Jones in Buffalo, and he's only 3,300. So another one of those punt wide receivers, but I think that he's got decent upside. So I like that sick call by Jeff.
Yeah, I don't mind that sick call. I didn't realize how good this guy done. 94-yard touchdown. 3 receptions, 105 yards. Holy crap. My sick call of the week's actually going to be the guy on the opposite end of Robert Foster. It's going to be Zay Jones. I think Zay Jones, he could have a big game with Josh. I bet you right now, John is just licking his shop because we're mentioning 2 sick call wide receivers and he got Josh Allen lined up. He's like, triple stack, go. But Zay Jones, this kid was talented coming out of college. I believe he's a real deal. I think they moved on from Kelvin Benjamin. They traded. He's with the Kansas City Chiefs now. He's going to be playing the tight end role to back up Travis Kelce. The other wide receiver that they let go was Seth Robert, I believe, right? Something Robert. Can't remember his name. Andre Holmes or something.
It's Andre Holmes, yeah.
Yeah. They released 2 wide receivers, so allowing Zay Jones to get basically the target, get more usage. And I think Zay Jones at a low ownership at 5,100 on FanDuel. I don't know his price on DraftKings, but I like Zay Jones in this matchup. Overall, we're just hoping for these guys to do something. I mean, New York Jets have a pretty, I don't want to say solid secondary, but a respectable secondary with Jamal Adams being there. But those are my sick call of the week. Once again, you have anything else to say, Tim?
No, man. You know, for the last couple of weeks on the show, I've been calling for them to fire Mike McCarthy. They finally did it. I don't know whether or not we're going to see any impact on that this season, man, but his time was up. He needed to be gone. So if nothing else, it's a good week.
All right, guys. With that being said, my name is Kristen. Jeff is not here today, but he did wish us all well. We have Tim Strobo. Thank you for coming on today again. We will see you guys next week for week 15. Adios.
Go Pack, go.